Good afternoon. Uh, First of all, I'd like to thank my two friends from Australia. I have here Bradley and Matt. I just want to say thank you for taking some time of your day to help me with my research about consumer behavior, specifically in Australia.
Yeah, no worries.
Problem?
Yeah. Um, I just want to have a bit of a discussion today. I have like some questions I want to ask, and maybe we can discuss about your consuming behavior in Australia. I have a total of 9 questions covering different aspects of it. So, for the first one, I'm wondering, like, how do local and like international brands compete for your attention when making purchasing decisions? And like, do you have any examples where competition between brands influence your buying choices?
Um, yeah, there's a lot of advertisements for supermarket chains like Woolworths and Coles, which usually help me decide which one I should go to. But I think the biggest influence would probably be the advertised pricing. I think the cheaper the product, the more likely I'll go to one instead of the other.
Yeah, I think the advertised prices influence me the most, whether it be for grocery shopping or buying tools from Bunnings, a hardware store. I always tend to go for the more economic option.
Right, so the key point for both of you is if anything is cheaper and more has more function, let's say, you go for that option instead.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's quite similar to how people here in Indonesia, we always tend to look for the better, cheaper and yet superior option in here. The market is competitive in that aspect. Right, nice.
I see.
Next, I'm wondering about legal restraints and government control. Like, have you ever encountered any rules or regulations that affected or is affecting your ability to purchase certain products or services? Do the government policies or laws influence your trust in certain industries or products?
Um, Australia's got a consumer protection policy which guarantees a refund if your product is defective. I think all businesses and industries have to comply with. I think the policy's probably definitely made me more confident whenever I'm buying something.
Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits of living in Australia. Most other countries don't seem to have that.
That is true. How does that work? Is that enforceable in any business and industry, any product, any service?
Oh, any product, any service, it's by law. If a customer is unhappy with their service or product, they can get a refund for it.
That's next, do you find that your spending habits change based on the weather or season? And can you think of any examples where weather conditions affect your shopping decisions?
I think the climate definitely has some impact on how often I go shopping. Mostly during the summer season in late November up until April. Well, here in Western Australia, at least, you'd get weeks where it hovers around 40 degrees Celsius, and going outside is just not a pleasant experience. But during other seasons, it doesn't seem to really matter that much.
Yeah, it's normally not that hot here in New South Wales, but I'd say it's pretty similar. Sometimes during the summer we'd get floods that cause the roads to be shut, so I can't go shopping during those days, but for the most part I wouldn't say weather's an issue.
Hmm. See, yeah. I also see it's not that big of a problem. Well, other than that flood, but yeah. Okay, now how likely are you to try new products or follow trends in your purchasing decisions? And have you noticed any shifts in your own preferences or those of your peers regarding products or brands?
Well, personally, I don't really follow trends and such. They're usually quite expensive and not that much better off from regular goods. And I'm not really the kind of guy that would try out new brands for the sake of brands. I like to stick with products that I'm already familiar with. It just feels safer that way.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I generally prefer the products that I know are reliable and affordable. So no, I wouldn't say I follow any specific brands, and most people I know don't seem to either. Just whatever's affordable or interesting.
Is that like a consistent phenomenon for most Australian people? They don't follow a lot of trends. Like in Indonesia, it's all most of the time, most people, it's all about status. And the newest iPhone, newest Samsung, even though the previous versions are just has the same functions. But in here, it's whoever has the new bling, and then they get respect or whatever.
Well, I mean, in that case, yeah, a lot of the younger generation here are quite status driven. They want the newest things, the most hot topic. But personally, I never really got into that, so I can't really say too much.
Yeah, neither.
Yeah, okay. Do economic factors like prices or job prospects influence how much you spend? And have you noticed any changes in your spending habits during times of economic uncertainty?
Well, I think that's been a hot topic in Australia for the past couple of years. The Australian economy is currently overheated, and so inflation is pretty high. The Federal Reserve Bank's been increasing interest rates to combat it until this month, at least, where they decided to place their interest rates on hold for once. But that also means that things are now more expensive. So naturally, I tend to save whatever I can lately, buying less commodities and sticking to the essentials like bread and water.
Yeah, it's been pretty rough. My family's had to cut back a lot on expenses so we can afford to pay costs of living. I feel like the increases in prices has definitely made me consider what I'm buying a lot more and whether or not I'm actually going to make use of it.
I see. Then, how do technology and online shopping platforms affect your purchasing behavior overall? And like, are there any tech limitations that impact your ability to have access to certain products or services?
I definitely think online shopping's made things easier for sure. Before the whole cost of living crisis, I used to get some interesting things online. Though nowadays I mainly just order food online. I don't think there's any limitations in accessing certain products and services. We've got good network coverage where I live, and most online stores are available.
I certainly, honestly, I feel like life's been easier ever since online shopping came to be more accessible where I live. Less long journeys to the city, though I can't really say the same for the past 2 years. It all just costs a lot.
I see. Okay. Other than online platforms, do issues like transportation or access to stores affect where or how you shop? And have you ever faced challenges in accessing goods or services due to infrastructure issues?
No, I wouldn't really say there's much transportation issues here. I could take a bus or a taxi if I want to go to a store. I think the roads are fine. There's also Uber too, which is probably my preferable way of getting around if I'm not walking or driving myself. There isn't much traffic where I live, and there are a lot of parking lots, so getting around isn't really a problem.
Oh, well, and where I live, transportation is sort of an issue. We get buses, but they're scheduled very infrequently that you'd spend at least an hour waiting in most cases. It's definitely impacted my shopping frequency. I live quite far out from all the main shopping centers, so going shopping is usually a 3 to 4 hour journey.
That's a long journey, so you have to plan it beforehand usually. Okay. How does your cultural background influence the products or brands you prefer? And can you think of any cultural norms or values that impact your decisions?
Well, personally, as a Western Australian, I tend to prefer supporting local family owned businesses whenever I can. There's a lot of decent small businesses I tend to frequent. Sometimes they're more expensive, but the whole community experience feels worth it. I think many other Western Australians feel similarly in supporting their local business. It's something quite unique.
I don't really like to tie my shopping to any cultural context. If I enjoy something, I'll go ahead and buy it. I don't like taking that into account whenever I'm making purchases.
That's fair. Yeah. That's quite interesting. If I have to compare with my own experience, people here in Indonesia, for the people that I know so far, they tend to gravitate towards well-established businesses already in F&B and whatnot. Local businesses here are usually left to dry most of the time. That's quite unfortunate. But it's
Yeah,
nice to
that
know.
is quite unfortunate.
It's nice to know that it's different. Last question. Have you ever felt influenced by political events or news when making purchasing decisions? And do political uncertainties affect your confidence in certain brands or industries?
I don't think I've ever felt influenced by political situations when it comes to my shopping. Personally, it just feels kind of completely unrelated.
Uh, I I think there's some influence in politics and how I shop. I like to favor products that don't affect the environment negatively because of the party I like to support.
I see. Okay. Well, that should be all the questions and all the answers I needed for my project. So thank you, both of you, for coming. And I wish you well. Thank you.
Glad to have helped. See ya.
Thank you.
Goodbye.